Hello everyone, I'm Jackie.
And I am Anna, and we are the brains behind Hireas and creative marketing consultants.
We are using our lessons that we've learned working at agencies and different marketing departments to help businesses like yours make an impact.
And Dipworthy is our podcast about marketing and how you can apply it to businesses like yours.
Yeah, we're going to give you some bite-sized insights so you can dip your toes into the strange world of marketing without drowning in it.
Oh, exciting. So what are we dipping into today, Jacqueline?
Oh, yes, that's right. I get to choose today's snack of choice. So here we go.
What do you got? What do you got?
You don't like these, but I do. They are the vegetable root chips, so sweet potato, cassava, and taro from Trader Joe's. I don't know if I've had I'm sure I've had the Trader Joe's kind brand. I wasn't sure what to dip these into because I typically don't really dip them into anything.
They're that good on their own?
They're that good on their own, yes. But thanks to this podcast, we get to explore some new things, right? So I'm a big white queso, I should say queso, not queso. Oh my goodness. White queso from Trader Joe's, which I have tried this before on other chips. Okay. So I can vouch that this is a good dip. So, okay. But together, I don't know. So we'll find out today.
Find out.
Yeah.
All right.
So you want to catch the ASMR for this?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Ooh, love that noise. Ooh. Looks good. Smells good.
Do we need to heat it up, or is it fine like that?
We'll just have it like this for now. Smells delicious. I guess I can use my mic. I was gonna ask you before we get into my dip-worthy stuff. How do you think our first episode went?
I think it went well. I think we got interesting topics. My snack choice could have.
It was the combo, not separately. It was a combo.
It didn't hit like I thought it was going to, but I don't know how I feel about that combo.
We don't know if that combo is dip-worthy, but
yeah, you live and learn.
What is it? It didn't slap?
It didn't slap.
It didn't slap, Anna.
Oh,
okay. Well. All right. Well,
a little water.
Yeah, there's something going around. So Anna's
recovering from a cold.
It reminds me of what I was feeling at the end of last year and beginning January. Like, I feel like it's like the exact same thing that I went through, where it was like this cough that I thought was never going to go away. But it will.
It's interrupting my sleep. I don't like it.
Well, as they say, it does get better. It does. It really does. You'll be better. Okay, so a lot of my thinking in terms of strategy, and I'm a little bit of I guess I'm going to call myself a little bit of a philosopher here, but obviously I think marketing has a lot to do with philosophy, human behavior, and all that stuff. So I was thinking that today my insight, my dip-worthy thing would be this idea of how to think about this idea of like connecting with your customers, because the more that you connect with, I think with anyone, right, the more that you gain that trust and the relationship is more meaningful. So I thought, well, what could I tell entrepreneurs? Like, how can I, like, what's kind of that first entry point of like, because marketing can be overwhelming and you always hear like your target and this and that. And so I thought, okay, well, the truth of the matter is like, you could truly simplify it by saying like, well, how do you meet your friends and how do you cultivate that friendship?
Okay.
So for example, when it comes to friends, like part of like gaining trust is like making sure that you're listening to them, right? And when you listen to them, you realize like, oh, like how can I make my friend feel better, or how can I be thoughtful, right? Whether that's a sweet text message or surprise them with something that they've been talking about, right? And so I think the same is applicable to marketing. And once you know who you're talking to, of course, that's important. So once you know what kind of friend you want, I guess in this example, then you can like really start to really fine tune that. And the other thing about friendship is like, you don't change who you are for them either, right? So you as a brand, you don't change who you are to morph to cater to somebody. No, you find ways in which you align and connect, and you bring your own spin to that. So for example, I grew up, and oh my God, my friends loved the Strokes in high school. Yes, maybe I'm aging myself at this point. And you know, growing up, I always thought like, oh my God, like, do I have to like the Strokes? And what I realized,
you do.
you do have to like the Strokes.
Can you get the memo?
Maybe this is not a good example, but I'm trying to connect the dots of like, as human behavior, it's like, well, wait, like you realize like, yeah, like even though I didn't like the Strokes, like I still cultivated a friendship because we were interested in other things, not necessarily that. So sometimes we think that maybe there's an element where it's like, oh, well then there's no way I'm going to be able to connect with this customer or potential customer. But I think that's why I think we tend to always come back to this, but it's like this idea of like the more you know who you are and what your values are as a brand, the easier you'll be able to make those connections. So yeah, I thought that would be I want it to be an example that's relatable. But what do you think, Anna? Is this dip-worthy advice?
So what I'm getting is that you're saying that in regards to being like a brand, a business, we have to be genuine with who we are as a brand or a business and approach our interactions with authenticity. Mm-hmm. And that is how you create a meaningful connection and a connection that yields return customers. Is that kind of what the
Well, you're definitely talking a lot of marketing jargon, but for some people who, you know, I would say, yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I think at the end of the day too, it's like, if you want to really connect with your customers, just be who you are and find ways in which you, certain elements or values where you feel like it is a good fit. Like it makes sense that they would want your service or product, right? And I think that's where the authenticity comes.
Okay, that sounds pretty dip-worthy. I think it makes sense. Why not?
So if you were a business owner and you heard this, what are your thoughts? If you're like you're starting out and you hear this, and how can you, what can this insight do for you?
I think, well, for me, I would say that, okay, so it's okay to kind of not have to, like you said, be like everybody else and like the Strokes, right? if that's really not who I am, then it makes me feel okay in saying, okay, I am going to be the business that doesn't like the Strokes.
I really don't. It's not that I hate the Strokes, by the way. Let's just be really clear about that. I just.
Well, it's too bad because I got concert tickets, but I can return them. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. It's like you can't be afraid to be who you are, right? Because that is that authenticity, that genuineness. I think that's what people recognize, and that's how, right? You create these lasting friendships, and I think that's how you see a business goes, hey, I see what you're doing. It's pretty cool. I'll be back.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I think it's motivating as a small business owner to like trust yourself more, which I think being an entrepreneur really tests your self-development and all that stuff. So I think it really helps with that journey. So without further ado,
do it.
She said yes. So what's cool is that there's 3 types of chips. So you pick what you want. I'm pretty sure this is sweet potato. You look so scared. She looks so scared, everybody. It's not that bad.
No, I'm sure they just taste like fried chips. But it's just we're 0 for 1, so I don't know if we'll be 0 for 2. Okay.
Here we go. Oh, I'm pretty good.
It's all right.
My mom, she always says that Anna, like her reaction, you got a chip right there. Your reaction is always like, it's all right. Like, yeah, it's all right. So whenever you hear something different than that's all right, like that means there's like some threshold that has been.
So I'm really impressed.
We'll have to wait and see which dip-worthy situation will be like, wow, it's better than all right.
Throw the mic down. Whoa. Okay.
Sorry, I'm dipping again because
it's that good.
It's that good.
Okay. Well, my kind of insight that I wanted to share, I think goes along well with what you said. And one thing that I wanted to share is a lot of times, especially more tech companies, more technical companies, when they talk about their product or service, they don't put the customer first. And you have to, I think you always have to put the customer first. Otherwise they can't see themselves in what you're putting down. And if they can't see themselves in that, then they're not going to buy into it. And what I mean by putting the customer first is, like, for instance, I think Apple does a really good job of this. When they talk about their products, their iPhone, whatever, they don't talk about the specs or like the actual technical details. More so they talk about what it means for the person using the product. For instance, I don't remember the exact wording, but one of the last iterations of iPhones, they were talking about how bright it was. And if you were just talking about specs, you'd say, new iPhone, 300 nits of brightness, you know? But as a customer, you're like,
say what?
Like, yeah, what is that? So what? But they said something to the effect of like, you can read it in the sunlight. So as a customer, you go, oh, right, because we've all been outside and you're like, oh, I can't see my phone, it's too bright. As a customer, you understand that means it's brighter so you can see it better. And that's what I mean about putting the customer first. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to solve something for them with your product or service. And if they can't see that solution, if it's just about your product and not the solution that you can give them, it's hard to make a connection.
What do you all think? I think that's pretty dip-worthy. I think it goes back to like how would you make sure that your friend understood something? Well, you'd make sure that you would say it in a way or in a language, right, that they would understand. So I think this is super applicable. My brain is also going into...
Say that again. I think this is super applicable.
I think it's super applicable to what I was saying earlier about, like, well, how would you make sure that your friend understood something? Well, you would make sure that they would have the context or the language, right, and the approach that they would understand. And to take it kind of a step further is, I think, with marketing too, it's like, it's also like when you say those things, right? Like, and then that's another, I think that's, I mean, not so complicated, but I think that's another layer of like understanding, like, where are you saying this stuff where they actually might receive the information. What I mean by that is like, you know, and I think a lot of the times, even with ads, right? Like when when people are on TikTok, for the most part, they're like, we call it doom scrolling. Like a lot of times you just want to see something funny, or it's like downtime. And so when you see something, especially a paid ad, that you're like, it's talking to you in a way you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about this right now.
Yeah, it interrupts the process that you're in. And that makes you not want to interact with it. You're like, you're interrupting me. But if it fits in, you're like, what is this? Like, it just flows right in.
Right. So that's another layer of context of like when and where you tell your friend some information, right? And so that's the same thing I think with marketing is like when. So that just reminded me of like that extra layer. But that's the first step is that translation, right? That's going to be really important. So I think it's dip worthy. Yeah. Shall we? I'm going to try a different chip this time.
Give me the chip you tried.
Yeah, the sweet potato. Here you go. And then which one?
I'm actually not a big fan of sweet potato.
She's not. So, which vegetable do you like, Anna?
I like
broccolini.
Broccolini.
What else was I gonna say?
No, a good Brussels sprouts,
tomatoes,
roasted tomatoes. I like tomatoes. All right.
Anyways.
Different chip. Let's see.
What's this one?
I think that's the cassava.
The cassava? Okay.
Farro.
It's not something I would choose again, but it's worth trying.
So we're 0 for 2, y'all.
So we haven't quite found a combination that fits.
Yeah, so maybe, okay.
Yeah, maybe some suggestions.
Suggestions,
yeah. Yeah, so we hope that you've learned something meaningful today, and if not, you've realized what combos maybe don't make sense.
Yeah.
But that you can maybe be inspired to be like, maybe we should tell AS like...
Yeah, try these 2 combos, or I'm curious about this topic. Anything you want us to dip into, figuratively, literally, we're here for it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Till next time.
So thank you all for watching, listening.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, we should stop doing that.
Nah.
No? Okay.
Nah.
Okay.